We are witnesses to all that Jesus did, both in Judea and in Jerusalem. They put him to death by hanging him on a tree, but God raised him on the third day and allowed him to appear not to all the people, but to us who were chosen by God as witnesses, and who ate and drank with him after he rose from the dead. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." Ben Harper sings a song which has been a favorite of mine for a long time now. And the refrain goes like this: I am blessed, I am blessed, I am blessed, I am blessed, I am blessed to be a witness. The scriptures today take up this same refrain, reminding us that not all the people know the story of Jesus hanging, God's raising, God's choosing. Not all the people have yet ate and drank with the risen Christ. We are called to be witnesses. The risen Christ says to the women leaving the tomb not only greetings, but go and tell. So, what wells up in me to share with you today is what I have seen and heard, what I have witnessed in these past ordinary days infused somehow with the living Christ. Just like you, there are dry seasons for me. But lately, there's been a lot of rain. Rain drizzling, rain pouring, rain sprinkling, rain misting, clouds overhead, the grass becoming greener, the flowers bursting open. Like that, there are times when it seems like God starts doing a new thing and it's unmistakable. Here are glimpses that I've witnessed in these past weeks' worship. First, there was the fifth Sunday in Lent when Stacy preached in the first person as if she was Jesus. At first, I was a little nervous. Oh, that's kind of dangerous. It's maybe a little presumptuous, speaking as if you know the feelings and the inner thoughts of Christ, but miraculously, it worked. Suddenly, this Jesus described by John, who can seem so distant, so overconfident, so in charge of everything, became real. Suddenly, Jesus was God in flesh, filling the worship space, filling and expanding the spaces in us that crave to know Jesus better. Jesus who loved Martha, Mary, Lazarus, and who loves each of us so deeply. How is it that we noticed this time differently than before? Then there was Maundy Thursday here in Augustana Chapel. Kim preached about washing of feet, an awkward liturgical experience of the year. I found myself in the midst of that sermon wrestling with our Christian practices and how we make faithful decisions around what we will do in worship together. I was turning over in my mind the question, do we not wash feet because it's difficult, embarrassing, a little too intimate a display of love? At the same time, in paradoxical tension, I held in mind a close friend of mine, a former college roommate, who is a member of that congregation, Kim's congregation. And she hates feet. So so this friend was in my mind and heart as Kim shared the core of her thinking around worship, that no practice is more important than people encountering the gospel of Jesus' deep love for them. They washed hands because everyone could say yes to that. Like Paul, who looked around at the cultures he entered and tried to make connections that removed barriers between his style, his outlook, his mode of being, and theirs, Kim's congregation tried to find ways that people could say yes to Jesus' deep love for them. How is it that we saw this time differently than before? Then there was Good Friday. I worshiped at St. Paul and the Redeemer across the street from my home. We entered at midday into a Good Friday unlike any I had experienced. Dan preached the word. I was a little nervous, again, as he launched into a heady historical explanation of the atonement. But then he managed to preach right to me. Body, mind, and spirit, reminding me that the living God died not as sacrifice, not as substitution, not even in solidarity, so much as because dying is integral to living. Death daily covers us in a shroud that we can't live without. Our skin, our hair, our fingernails. Without death, Jesus would not have been one of us. Without death, we would not know that God really is a living God. Resurrection, then, Dan preached, is not the reversal of the crucifixion. It is the resolution of it, like the movement of musical dissonance to musical consonance. Talk about infusing earthly things with heavenly things. How were we moved this time differently than before? God's love was manifest in Jesus' death on the cross, but even then the story was not finished. Not with the person of Jesus, not with the drama of the passion, not in the infinite love that brought our living God to the cross to change our way of thinking about death and life. It is not finished in that dissonant, ancient, modern tone cluster, but comes to a surprising resolution. Jesus announces from the cross, "It is finished," but there's still an encore. And it's an encore that, somewhat like a college band or choir performance, goes on and on and on. So today we walk with Mary and Mary to the tomb, expecting to find death. And instead we find lightning, a fabulous cross-legged angel, guards no longer in any state to guard a body, and our eyes widen. We almost can't believe it, but here Jesus is, greeting us with that ancient greeting that sounds so new. Don't be afraid. How is it that we hear it this time differently than before? I'm not certain how these moments of grace broke into our last few days, but break in they did. And it certainly wasn't because we were perfectly attending or because of our perfect efforts. Somehow, in the questions, in the wrestling, in the quiet, in the chaos, in the overturning of expectations, Jesus shows himself along the way of life with words of love and direction. Greetings. Don't be afraid. Go and tell. Just as the season of resurrection begins to unfold this spring, the academic year begins to come to a close, And with that turning, all kinds of transitions begin. There are all kinds of ways this community's people will be sent to go and tell. We'll have opportunities to proclaim with Peter that we are witnesses to the resurrected Christ. You have been chosen as witnesses. And as witnesses, we're headed into the unknown territory of new life with joy and a whole myriad of thoughts to share the powerful encounter of the living God, the one who died and was raised in the person of Jesus Christ. We're headed out to share what we've witnessed, to share the good news, to proclaim this impossible gospel so that brothers and sisters waiting ahead of us might also see what we've seen, hear what we've heard, taste what we will taste. At this table, we'll gather around, getting a morsel of bread, a drink of wine that is more than enough. Jesus shares a taste of what it is to be loved with a real love, a love that wants to make it possible to respond with a yes, a love that embraces humanity through all our fears and resolves fear into joy, courage, and love. For each one who is looking forward today to ventures of which we cannot see the ending, whether that be as those who will pack up their things and move to live and witness in a new community, or whether it is staying, learning, and serving in this ever-changing community, whatever Christ's particular call to you today, Jesus' call is not to be afraid, because in that unknown future, the one who died and was raised, the one who loves us that deeply and completely, is already there with an encore, a resurrection feast.